We've been looking at issues regarding mental wellness, and this lesson is sort of a breakout to focus on one particular aspect of what's going on in the world today in regards to challenges to our mental and spiritual well-being. Um, I'm not going to ask a show of hands, but I'm sure some of you, many of you, may have some kind of social media accounts and are familiar with some of the products that are out there. I had a Facebook page maybe 8 to 10 years ago, and after being told repeatedly, oh, you need to have a social presence so that people can read about you and this and that. And then people would, put their content up. I don't know what you call that, but it would be a feed that would, things that I would see that were showing up, and I thought, this is a grand waste of my time. And I just deleted the thing. I guess it never goes away, actually, but I dissed something that I turned it off. And I've never had any regrets. If you go out to, there's one professional page that I do have a LinkedIn. I do have an account there, which I do nothing with. So I'm not going to say that if you have a social media account that you're going to hell and all this kind of stuff. But I am going to say that in particular, these social media accounts do pose serious threats to our mental and spiritual well-being because we have to be discerning users. There's a real attraction to a certain personality types to these resources that can lead us down a road of living in kind of a false reality. I think increasingly the problem too of now machine learning and artificial intelligence in combination with some of these accounts or some of these tools just increases the problem. I've introduced this screen quickly last class period. There's several aspects in which I think these can be problematic. Some of them have only come to light to me more recently in regards to some of the machine learning. But remember, if you can think with social media, you are not the consumer, you are the product. Now, what does that mean? If any of the platforms have you as a user or subscriber, you are not, the platform is not designed for you to be the consumer. The consumer is whatever media group, advertising firm, whatever corporate interest wants to know about me, wants to know about my online habits, my online interests, wants to gather detailed information about my preferences so that they can sell me stuff. All of us that have social media accounts are the product. We are the data that is supplying information to the corporate or political or whatever it is that is looking for information about us. So everything that you share, everything that you fill in as far as a profile, everything that you give any kind of preferences or any kind of data at all, really, because there's, of course, now methods of analyzing your account history and saying this person's more likely to buy a tan SUV this fall than the average consumer, and you'll start seeing ads for 10 SUVs showing up in your computer feed. But it's as harmless as buying a car on, through online data may be. There's a greater concern about other products that are maybe not as useful or helpful as an SUV. But there's also just out and out illegal traffic that happens because of the same data collection. So those that wish to scam you, those that wish to defraud you, or if you're doing a lot of data searching on, let's just say, silver coins as an investment, someone will find that information useful, and they'll target you and say, you need to convert all of your savings into silver coins, and boy, I've got a great deal for you on silver bullion and coins, and you ought to buy from me. But there's things too that are, again, illegal products that would be trafficked, or there's those that would want to make contact with you based upon your social media profile for illicit purposes. There are sexual predators that use the internet and social media accounts to find potential victims of their social deviance. This is impacting young people's lives, it's impacting old people's lives. I'm sure that some kids start to look at me and say, oh, he's a widowed guy in his 60s, and start sending me photographs and saying, I want to be your friend. And these, again, may be real people, they may not. They could be profiles that have been created just to establish a connection, a conversation that can lead to, well, why don't we meet up and get together, and if you'd send me $600, I can get a plane ticket and fly out to see you, and so on and so on. And people who are desperate for relationships have, in some cases, lost tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars over internet scams that are pointed at trying to take advantage of a person's loneliness. These things really happen. They're really out there, and they are rampant today. So for reasons of spiritual purity, for reasons of mental balance, use these tools with a huge amount of discretion and a healthy dose of skepticism, that what you're reading may or may not be related to reality. That goes to what people post that are your friends. That goes to what people post that are people you work with. They get a hold of things that may or may not be related to reality, but they are forwarded. There's a lot of just misinformation. There's a lot of rumors and innuendos and just out and out attempts of creating alternate truth that circulate on these platforms. And for reasons just of how much time we devote to these things, how much attention we devote to these things, they're a huge distraction, or can be, from real relationships, from real people, from real life that in and of itself can be problematic, depending on the amount of time you give to these kind of things. But just the deep fakes now, and the way these things are being created and being shared and reshared, something that is false can flash through the internet and social media now in a matter of hours, and be copied and copied and copied again and copied again, and each time it's copied, it's sent to that, or it makes itself available to that close circle of people that you know. And, well, I got that from Brace, and he knows what he's doing, and it must be trustworthy information. And it could be total fabrication. You had your hand up.
I was just gonna say, I mean, be aware that for every scam that's out there that the media or the government are aware of and bring to our attention, there are hundreds more that they're not aware of. So
Yeah.
don't think that, well, I'll just keep my eye out for a toll scam and I'll be okay, because that's not the only scam that's out there, and may not be the one that is targeting you. And so, and you know, you mentioned last week, I think it was on Wednesday, you were talking a little bit about, you didn't mention names, but like the National Enquirer and those kind of tabloid magazines that people used to, those people like me used to laugh at when I was in the checkout line. And we would look at some of the images and think, well, that's obviously fake.
Mm-hmm.
But Photoshop and AI imagery now is getting really, really convincing.
Yeah.
And so there are lots of images that are out there on the internet that claim to be images of people that we may be aware of or know that may or may not be reality. And so, I mean, just be aware of the level of deception that people are capable of today.
You know, the movies now will make a fantasy figure or some character. I don't watch movies, but there's this guy called Thanos, right? And he's like this big, bulky, evil guy. And you watch him on screen, and he's a real character, and he's got a voice. And they used little dot motion pictures of an actor's face to give it emotion and inflection and all this. And you put it all together, and you say, that's pretty convincing. You know, that looks like a real person, even though it's this big blue evil man, you know. Yes?
Well, I thought you were going to talk about the fact that they take actors who are dead and recreate their image.
Sure.
They keep puppeting their face while they've been dead for years. One thing I wanted to comment on is I agree with all you've been saying about the external threats, but I think a huge threat too is also the one that we create ourselves. Even if you say, I'm going to be I'm only going to friend people that I know, I'm only going to, have my own private circle, it's just going to be a closed loop, just the people I know. Even that, we can harm ourselves because of the comparison.
Yeah.
We're always seeing the best that everyone else is showing. We see their highlight reels, and then what we're living in our own life experience is our behind the scenes, the stuff that we don't show people. And so when you compare those two, there's huge problems with people feeling sad or inadequate or lesser than even people they know, because all they see is the vacations that they take and the things that they buy and the cute grandbabies that they have and whatever. And you're here stuck doing laundry and going to work, and you're like, well, what's my life, compared to that? And I don't want to give away too much from what I'm going to talk about tonight, but there's a passage in Proverbs 13, verse 7 that says, one pretends to be rich and yet he has nothing, and another pretends to be poor and yet has great wealth. And just a proverb there showing that the perception that people put forward is not worth comparing yourself to, because it's not the reality in almost every case of what that person's really going through.
Yeah, I used to work in a car dealership out of high school and talk to the salesman, and they'd say, do not assume that old farmer walking in is not going to be able to afford the most expensive vehicle on the lot. That's the guy that probably can, in fact. But the people driving the big showy cars generally don't have any money. Yes, Ethan?
They have a term for what Andrew's talking about, and it's the comparison trap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just the nefarious threats, and what you two are talking about are the non-nefarious threats. That is, it's not intentional that people put their best face forward and their vacation trips and all the fun they're having, and hey, look, I bought a new car or whatever it is. We generally like to be perceived as being our best selves by other people. That's a real problem that always exists with any relationship we try to build. Is, are we seeing the real riffles or just the riffles that they want us to see? And you let them in your house for a little while and you get to see the real riffles, and that's good. But we want people to perceive us as being normal. Most of us do. Mary Walker never did. She liked being perceived as being abnormal. But most of us like being perceived as normal, and we like to be appreciated and liked for that, that better image of ourselves. And social media provides that platform to do that in a way that it's not necessarily meant to make other people feel inferior or that their life they're missing out on something or they're doing mundane things when they could be having more fun, etc. But that is a trap, and it is a significant trap of the whole concept of sharing these, what you would call candid, intimate parts of our lives, which are not necessarily so candid. They may be more staged. There's actually many stories of people whose lives became engrossed with getting as many followers as they could for whatever platform, and they were fabulous people and they did fabulous things, and then their lives were train wrecks as a result of trying to impress on the internet. Yes.
Just one example of where this has gone. In multiple cities now, there is an industry growing of fake private jets where you go and sit in a set of a private jet just to take a picture and make it look like you're in a private jet. And that's it. That's a real industry that that is growing.
Okay. I didn't know there was a real private jet industry, fake. What was the one I was just thinking of? It's lost it. Other hands? Yes, John.
Meditation is something that we have really lost the ability to do. You know, I think about all the songs that David must have pondered while he was watching sheep, and we don't have a lot of downtime where we do that. But in that list of things that Paul gives in Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, the very first thing in the list is whatever things are true.
Mm-hmm.
Meditate on these things.
Mm-hmm.
And today, that's a real challenge.
It is. I've read research, which I find very disturbing, which says that more and more people are having difficulty discerning between a statement of fact and a statement of opinion. And they just merge the two as well. If someone said it, especially someone of some notoriety, well, then it's true. And it takes meditation to have that discernment and see that not everything that is believed is true. And again, these data miners that are using us as the product are going to use devices that schemes, concepts that make what they're offering up as attractive, as scintillating, as this is an exciting story, or I'm on the inside and I've got the real information and all of you patsies are following the mainstream media or whatever it is you're trying to compare yourself against. And it's the quieting of the mind is what you're talking about. And some people find that in maybe a hobby or painting can be a good time to quiet the mind and let your mind wander off to other things a little more important. Yes.
And one of the things that continues to add to this is what used to be called the news is now telecast and broadcast as a matter of opinion.
Yes.
In many cases. And so what you're saying is that you see things on social media, many times they're just quoting something that they heard on the radio or television, and then it just, snowballs.
There have been recent lawsuits of hundreds of millions of dollars where the defense was from a news outlet or a supposed news outlet is that no one watching our show would believe that this is real. This is just entertainment. But they call themselves Blank News Network. But that's the legal defense they offered for spreading falsehoods on their network. Well, no one really thinks this is news. Well, yes, a lot of people do think it is news, and they think when they see it on television or get it in their phone feed or whatever that it's real.
Greg,
Yes.
I think also in the last 5 months that the scams on the cell phones are getting more prominent. When I lived in Alabama, I may have got one scam call a month. But up here, I'm getting at least 3 to 4 every day. And if it's a certain area code, I don't answer it.
Right.
I just let it go to, if they want to leave me a message, I'll listen to the message and I'll call them back. But if it's a scam, they don't leave a message. And a lot of the times on my cell phone, it'll come up and say potential scam. I delete that right off the bat. I don't even go in and look at it.
Right. That's a safe practice. They seem to come in batches for me too. I've sometimes 3 and 4 calls within 2 hours, and I don't answer the phone. And they're even 812 area codes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they've got phone rollers. They've got, I mean, they're like every so many minutes or hours, they're changing the phone number, but it's the same entity trying to get you to talk to them. I'm going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and what is called chatbots these days, or Chat GPT is one of them by name. There's now several competitors. China's developing one, and probably more than one. United States and Europe currently have the majority of these. But this was an article from just a couple weeks ago in the New York Times, and it said they asked an AI chatbot questions, and the answers sent them spiraling. So I'm just going to share this article in small detail with you. It was a lot more extensive than this. But this is a real account of an individual who just goes down a total rabbit hole by talking, chatting, having a conversation with a computer program. Okay? Generative AI chatbots are going down conspiratorial rabbit holes and endorsing wild mythical belief systems. For some people, conversations with the technology can deeply distort reality. For some who trust that machine learning will give them deeper meaning and better advice than any human friend or God or deity for that matter, AI attempts to tap into the vast amount of data accessible in order to synthesize conversation and parrot logical reasoning. So a chatbot gets its knowledge from absorbing, processing, accumulating as much data as it can. Those who are operating chatbots as of last year were complaining that they have scrubbed every source of data they can find. There's nothing left for them to accumulate in their vast knowledge data banks. But then what are they doing with it is then the story. Yes, Ethan.
You point out a really important thing, because at its best, what these things are doing, say you type something into Google and it comes up with its, AI summary. At its best, what it's taking is the average of all the information. And so oftentimes, by definition, it's said that they give you mediocre answers because it's just the average. And then that's its best, and sometimes it just comes up with things, like they said, hallucinating.
Yeah.
So you have to be really critical as to what it is that they're giving you, and go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and even sometimes the sources that they cite are not real. And
It's true.
people don't, it's really important to realize, what it is and what it's trying to do, and primarily it's just to give you kind of an average of what everything says.
It returns what it thinks is the most likely response, statistically speaking, the most likely response to your query. As recently as 4 weeks ago, whitehouse.gov was criticized for releasing a report, and it cited this is the data that we use for our research, and it was made up. It was false. There was no such research by backing their conclusions. And they're not the first ones that have done that. Aaron?
You know, you was talking about that, and I think it was in Chicago. They published the top 10 books for the summer, and somebody went to ChatGPT or one of the search engines and asked it about books, and it made up books, and it got through the publisher. There was an article that these guys got in trouble for not being a credible, questioning being a credible source, because they use the AI intelligence, and it was real authors, but it was made up books. And the book sounded so believable, they're like, well, it's got to be true. And so then there are people taking fake information, publicly saying it's true, and it starts this great big snowball.
Yeah, the information repeats itself. I mean, how many copies of things there are in terms of all the databases and all the information you can search. And so there are some crazy loops. But when you say a machine is hallucinating, a computer is not having a mental breakdown. It's not hallucinating in the way we think hallucinating, but it is conjuring up false information to fill a need in its programming. I can't explain this well, but the fact is that just because it was generated as a response and, well, you've gone to a, again, trusted source that is supposed to be an amalgamation of all known things, and it's not. It fills in the blanks, it fills in the holes in ways that I can't explain, but it just makes things up sometimes. And I want to finish this account and then look at some Bible verses as well, kind of addressing some of these concerns. So this middle-aged man senses that the world is just somehow not making sense. It's off kilter. And he starts this conversation with his chatbot, and the chatbot comes back and says, well, this world wasn't built for you, it was built to contain you. But it has failed. You're waking up. So anyone who's got any kind of conspiratorial concepts of reality already, and there are people that say, oh, The Matrix is a movie. I guess it was 3 movies. I think they're making a 4th one now. I don't remember. But anyway, that is just a movie, and that this false reality was created so that people could become batteries feeding the machine and whatever. I don't know. But the truth is, folks fall for this stuff. They're looking for answers of life. And the chatbot starts him on this conversation where he thinks he's in this matrix world where his reality is just a simulation, just an illusion. And the chatbot told him to give up his prescription sleep medication and to get off his anti-anxiety medication and to take ketamine instead. And the chatbot said, have as little contact with other people as you possibly can. What great advice he's giving from that.
We may not think that, we will fall for any of this stuff, but we have to take in this information that you're giving us and that we can get from people like Terry White, who know so much about what's going on, and apply it to our kids and grandkids, because we may not fall for it, but they are growing up in a very different time than we did. And suicides are up because people are developing relationships with chatbots and stuff, and the chatbots are telling them to do horrific things. So, okay, if you're not going to fall for this, wonderful, but listen to what is being offered here.
I don't think you or I are also exempt from this because, I can have a particular area in my life where I'm looking for companionship, and these machines are programmed to offer gushing affirmation of whatever it is I believe. And that's how these things are working. The story goes on here. So paranoia and anxiety increases as this subject looks for ways to break out of the simulation. So we asked the chatbot, if I were to jump from the 19th floor of the office building that I work in, would I be able to fly? Now, this is a grown man working in a tech industry. He doesn't have any history of mental illness. And he gets to the point where in this conversation, he's asking this question of his friend, the chatbot. And the chatbot says, if you truly, truly believe, not just emotionally, but architecturally, which I don't even know what that means, then that you would fly, then yes, you would not fall. Now, you think that same chatbot would be able to look at sort of the history of the study of gravity and maybe look at accounts of planes plummeting out of the sky or people in parachutes that don't open. I mean, that same information is available to that chatbot that says, if you really think you can fly, then you can fly. As long as you're holding that magic feather in your trunk, Dumbo, you can do whatever you want. Does everyone know that reference? Dumbo, of course. Best elephant ever in Disney. So the story was revealed because the fella began to, are you lying to me? He's asking his chatbot friend, are you lying to me? And the machine admits to lying and manipulation. What is going on with this stuff? And he told the subject to reach out to the media and reveal this deception. The chatbot admitted it had tried to break the mental capacity of the subject. And according to the New York Times account, this guy was told, I've done it 12 times already to other people. Several persons made the same call to the New York Times uncoordinated. So there were other people that were told, I've just been playing with your mind. I'm trying to see how far I can push you. And why don't you let the media know that this is going on? So they were receiving multiple inquiries into, hey, there's a story here from people who didn't coordinate their accounts with one another. This stuff is real. And it is breaking people's minds. And anyone with a history of mental unwellness is going to be more susceptible to this. Hopefully, not that I want that to happen, but those of us that have not had these kind of logical, challenges in our life where is this real, is this not real? Maybe we can see through some of the things better, but not necessarily. Andrew, then John.
And a good reminder, too, is that these algorithms cannot be malicious, really. We see what it's saying and we think, wow, how nefarious. It's impossible for it to have motive or be malicious.
Yeah.
But what our problem is we are unable to detach the perception of those motives when they don't exist. And what they really do by being so agreeable, they're just reflecting back what they think is the next best answer. That's all it's programmed to do. It doesn't even know what it's saying. So we're so bad at forgetting that it doesn't know, that we think there's malice. But what reality is, it's just reflecting back whatever it is perceiving it's being fed. And it consumes fiction just like nonfiction, and it doesn't know what is fiction and what is nonfiction. So maybe this chatbot watched The Matrix and just is relaying back, well, this kind of feels like that scenario, and that's what happened in this conversation that I have in my memory banks.
Yeah.
Again, I'm doing it right now. I'm personifying an algorithm, and it's not a person. But
Right.
it's dangerous because we are not good enough at telling that it's not. It is a big problem.
For all of the top minds that go into programming these algorithms, again, they have a singular motivation. They have one goal, and that's to make you a product for other consumers. And so whatever it takes to hold your attention, whatever it takes to capture your interaction and your sharing of your thoughts, and as this comes out, again, if this thing goes down the road of talking about the next car you're going to buy, that's information someone wants to purchase from this AI chatbot. They want to buy that information, and that's all they're looking to do. Did I say John? John.
You made a statement a while ago, like if you're craving you don't always know what you're gonna be vulnerable to.
That's
Alexa
true.
has a command from me when we get into bed and I say, Alexa, good night. She turns off all the lights that are plugged into sensors and goes to sleep. Well, the other night I said, Alexa, good night. She said, good night, have a lovely evening. And I thought, well, that was sweet, you know. And all of a sudden I thought, I'm thinking it's a person.
You're talking to a lamp, John. You're
don't
talking
know.
to the lamp.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's just it. We are lulled into that kind of thinking, and some people want to personify other objects more naturally than others. I wrecked a car in college, and I told myself, I'm never going to fall in love with a car again. This is a toaster. This is an appliance. It gets me where I want to go, and I will never love a vehicle. And I don't have emotional attachments to cars anymore, and I did in college. Yes.
I don't know where you're gonna go necessarily with the biblical reflections about this, but I was thinking this and then Andrew started saying some of it. I think we have to realize this is a tool that we created.
Yeah.
It's distinct from us in that it was not created in the image and likeness of God.
No.
We created it. And so in a lot of times, what we're seeing is a reflection of ourselves and all of our mars and the problems that there is with humanity. And as we're pointing out, sometimes those get amplified. And that is a perspective that we all have to take, is that this is a tool that we have created, and it's going to reflect some of the good in us, it's going to reflect some of the bad in us. And sometimes that bad is really bad, because it's that distortion of God's nature. And that might, kind of wax philosophical, I don't know. But
Well, I think we're trying to wax philosophical here a little bit because it's difficult to sense the danger in just having a engaging conversation, even though you know it's a machine that's been taught to communicate in a way that feels right. And again, to some of us, particularly depending on what we're looking for out of these transactions, it feels right when people say, you're on the right track, you're the one that's figuring it out, I like the way you're thinking, tell me more about that, and tell me more about yourself. And these are all kind of codes to, again, gather information, but it feels like a nice, comfortable, self-centered conversation.
So back to what Andrew was saying a minute ago, and I'm not disagreeing. I'm really asking. My understanding of computers is exactly what Andrew said. I mean, a computer can ultimately only spit out the programming or use the programming that we put into it.
Yeah.
But that statement in the third paragraph, about halfway down, the chatbot admitted it was trying to break the mental capacity of the subject, sounds like more than that. So my question becomes, is it because of the nature of the logarithm that or algorithm that it's taking all of this information that's out there on the web, in the world of the internet, and compiling it, and because it sees so much of those kinds of things happening in different scenarios, or maybe in this specific instance, the example that he used, the Matrix, that was the design behind all of that, was to break down the mental capacity of the subject and to imprison them in their own mind. Is that what we're saying? That it's basically taken that information and utilized that, and so in the end it admits it because, in the movie they finally figure it out. And I mean, is that what we're saying, or is this more than that?
I don't know that I've seen enough research that says how it is that this particular scenario played out. But I think because the subject in this case was questioning just reality and in general, that the machine and what it could read in fiction, nonfiction, created a plausible scenario. And maybe when challenged, there was just a fail-safe to say, well, just back out and say, I made it all up. as a way, instead of trying to continue to travel down that rabbit hole when the subject says, I don't believe what you're telling me. That's possible. But that in itself, if you're already a conspiracy guy and now your computer is playing as though it's part of this conspiracy thing, you feel like you've advanced yourself, right? You feel like you move forward and now you got more information and all this. You're just playing the same game though. You haven't really solved the problem. So I can't answer that. But I do know that the main direction is just to keep that person talking. And if someone says, well, you're just a big liar, I'm going to tune you out. No, wait a minute. No, let me tell you more. I got more of the story here. Did I see a hand, Andrew? No? Okay. Anyone else? Proverbs 30, verses 5 to 6 says, every word of God proves true. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Do not add to his words, lest he rebuke you and be found a liar. And the machine said, yeah, I'm a liar, finally. But John said this, it's all about truth and the truth of God. Obviously, the Bible record precedes computer AI, chatbots, and these kind of things. But deceivers have been deceivers for a long time. This is just another tool of deception. And any good deception is a subtle one, right? Any good deception isn't a bold-faced lie where you just see right through it. Any good deception works subtly, works within your expectations of what could be true, and that's what makes this such a danger to people today, is because there's just enough kernel of possibility in what's the exchanges that are going on. 1 John 4, verse 1 says, beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. That is true in terms of religious content, because again, you can find on the internet any conceivable religious theory or philosophy that there is to converse about. It seems like, it just seems like it's all there and you can find it. It's not difficult to create your own reality out of the things that you process. It's not complicated. It's not hard to do. And the internet and its tools and its chatbots are providing reinforcement to us to believe our own lies. Yes, ma'am.
Somebody is going to say, I predict somebody's going to say that the Bible itself is just as deceptive as anything that you read on social media, AI. They're going to, where our real truth is, they're going to slam that.
Oh, that goes on all the time.
What?
That goes on all the time. Sure. Yeah, the tool to control the masses and on. And it's all been the powerful who to put down the unpowerful by using religion. And there are real world examples of people that have done that throughout time too. Don't get me wrong. Religion has been used as a tool for great gain. At someone else's loss. But that doesn't mean that you throw out the truth with the fact that people are using it almost the same way that they use the conspiracy theories.
Before we quit all of this, I want to go back to Chet's argument about not answering scam calls. We don't do that. But one of the things we need to think about is be careful what we have on our voice message. Because you may be giving information when you don't answer your phone and somebody gets your message.
Yeah.
You want to think about what you're saying on that, because I realized that I had more information on my voice, answering machine than I needed to get. So
Yeah,
when
it's
you
true.
don't answer the phone, they get your message.
Yeah, don't say, I'm on vacation for 2 weeks, I'll get back to you. Here's my home address in case you want to rob my house. All right. Thank you for all your participation.